With the transfer window approaching fast, a lot of noise around the club has been who will Rodgers sell and sign. We will discuss this in today's video whilst going over all the latest Celtic news from the last 24 hours. But first, make sure you like this video and subscribe to the channel for more Celtic content. Daizen Maeda is attracting interest from Tottenham Hotspur and Fenerbahce, but the Japanese forward appears focused on continuing his journey with Celtic into next season. The 27-year-old, who has scored 33 goals for the club this season, has been a key figure under both Ange Postecoglou and Brendan Rodgers. His relentless work rate and eye for goal have made him a fan favourite, and his recent comments suggest he's far from finished in Glasgow. Speaking recently, Maeda said, "I was in great form this season, both personally and so were the team, so I'd like to keep it going next season. I am who I am because of my team, Celtic. I'd like to thank my teammates and above all my family for supporting me so far. I'd be happy if I could score more goals next season. I hope the number of goals will continue to increase," he concluded. Despite his clear commitment, speculation around his future continues to grow. Reports from Turkey claim Fenerbahce, managed by Jose Mourinho, are preparing a bid in excess of €10 million. However, that falls well short of Celtic's valuation, believed to be in the region of £25 million. The reliability of Turkish media reports has been questioned in the past, and any report of a move from Fenerbahce should be taken cautiously at this stage, as should his price tag. Meanwhile, Ange Postecoglou's Spurs have also been credited with an interest. The Australian knows Maeda well, having signed him twice already, first at Yokohama and then again at Celtic. Should Postecoglou remain in charge at Spurs, it's not unthinkable that he could look to make it a hat-trick. Unless a club meets the Hoops valuation, there's little suggestion that a move is imminent. Still, with suitors circling and the transfer window edging closer, Celtic may have a decision to make before the summer is out. Now for the main story, as Don Hutchison believes Brendan Rodgers may be eyeing a summer clear-out at Celtic, not out of panic but to prevent a creeping sense of complacency within the squad. The former Scotland midfielder, speaking on the back of another domestic double for the Hoops, suggested that success often brings difficult decisions, particularly around loyalty and squad refreshment. Rodgers himself has already indicated the need to freshen up the group ahead of the 2025 to 2026 campaign, saying if it's not the players that move on, it will need to be the manager. Hutchison had this to say: "That's always the dilemma if there's a need to freshen the squad to stop complacency stepping in. I think for a manager, when you win, I always liken it to teams. When you come up from the championship, do you stay loyal or do you move them on?" And Brendan's probably having that exact same conversation. Right. The players that have won us a lot, do I stay loyal? Character-wise, you'll know them inside out. But then you've got to have that foresight to think, who's going to drop off? Who might be the player that goes complacent? Who might be the player that over the last couple of years or months has been the one that's just slacked off a little bit, or who's just picked up one or two injuries? Do I try and freshen it up with younger players? I'm a player that's played for 20 years in a lot of dressing rooms, and when you see a new signing coming in, it does have a bit of a weird effect in a good way. It can brighten the mood off the pitch and brighten the tempo on the pitch. When a new player comes in, he tries to impress, and that alone can galvanise. If he plays in your position, you're then trying to impress because you want to tell the boss that he's not just going to come in and take your place. The competitive edge definitely goes up a yard when new players get brought in, he concluded. Celtic are expected to be active in the market this summer, with Kieran Tierney's return already confirmed and several areas of the squad under review. Key figures such as Greg Taylor are out of contract and expected to leave, with a Champions League campaign on the horizon and domestic rivals also expected to strengthen. With a new manager in the dugout, the challenge for Rodgers now is to ensure Celtic don't just stand still, but evolve. There is a feeling that there could be quite the overhaul this summer, with a few players possibly moving on. Brendan Rodgers will also need to clear out the deadwood in the squad. In other news, Tony Pulis believes Kieran Tierney is returning to Celtic for all the right reasons, insisting the defender will feel more at ease back in Glasgow after a testing few years in England and Spain. Tierney, who will officially rejoin Celtic this summer after the expiry of his Arsenal contract, has signed a pre-contract agreement and will link up with Brendan Rodgers' squad in July. The move brings the Scotland international back to the club, where he made his name and enjoyed his greatest success. Tony Pulis said this: Celtic is a fabulous club. I really thought about 25 years ago that they would bring both clubs into the Premier League, the two giants from Scotland and also a club from Ireland in, but it never happened. But the support for Celtic around the world is just extraordinary. Kieran Tierney will know what it's like. He has been at a top club in Arsenal, but he will feel a lot more comfortable at Celtic. He had fantastic success there before he went to Arsenal, and it sounds as though he's desperate to get back home and play and enjoy his football again, he concluded. Tierney moved to Arsenal in 2019 for £25 million, becoming the most expensive Scottish player in history at the time. But despite his popularity with the supporters, his time under Mikel Arteta was stop-start. The 28-year-old is expected to become a central figure in Rodgers' plans next season, bringing both experience and leadership to a squad preparing for another tilt at the Champions League and further domestic dominance. Everyone will be hoping that he can put his injury struggles of the past few years behind him and kick on in a Celtic shirt. It's not yet known who will share the minutes with him, with Greg Taylor's situation still up in the air. Lastly, Scott Allan's time at Celtic was disastrous, to be frank, despite growing up a Rangers fan and the Ibrox club failing 3 times to sign him. He joined the Hoops from Hibs in 2015 after impressing under Alan Stubbs, but Allan made just 13 league appearances for Celtic over 4 years, largely because he was sent out on loan for the majority of the time. The Glaswegian started his career at Dundee United, having come through the age ranks there, and he will never forget the opponent he faced for the under-10s, who went on to become a Celtic legend. Allan is referring to James Forrest, who was briefly his teammate whilst at Celtic, but they were opponents as kids, and Allan recalls the first time he ever played against him. Forrest was brilliant that day, and 20 years later is now the most decorated Celtic player of all time. Speaking to the Celtic Way, Allan said, "I will never forget the first time I ever played against Celtic for Dundee United at under-10 level. Walking off the pitch, I said to my dad that a winger playing for Celtic was incredible. It was Jamesy. From the age of 10, I played against James all the way through, but the first time I played against him, he had that impact. At the time, I felt that I was as good as anybody, so I was very confident, but I have loved Jamesy's game from the get-go. I think what people forget is to go that length of time at a club, if you take away just his ability, it actually speaks more about the type of teammate you are. A good thing for young players to look at is, yes, he's an outstanding footballer with good dribbling, close control and end product, but I think one of the biggest things for me is that he has been a good teammate, and Jamesy certainly ticks all the boxes. That is why they get their longevity at clubs, as people understand their importance around a team. And Jamesy and obviously Callum McGregor, who is not far behind him, are of that mould, he concluded. You only have to look at the 2015 to 2016 season to analyse Scott Allan's time at Celtic, because that's the only campaign he represented them. Ronnie Dyler was the manager at the time, as Celtic aimed to secure a 5th Scottish Premiership title in a row, with Rangers struggling to get out of the Championship. Allan made 17 appearances across all competitions for the boys, registering 5 assists but failing to score a goal. Forrest, on the other hand, played plenty of games that year. He made 33 appearances, but incredibly, he only managed to score twice all season. Bar the 2009 to 2010 and 2024 to 2025 campaigns, it's his lowest goal tally in a season at Celtic. He was dropped by Dyler in the second half of the season for failing to sign an extended contract. What are your thoughts on these? Let us know down in the comment section below. Make sure you've liked this video and subscribed to the channel for more Celtic content.